So, after PAX East 2015, an article was released by the Boston Globe regarding Brianna Wu's appearance at the event. The title of the article appeared neutral, so I figured that it might be a good idea to see if the content behind the headline lived up to its first impression. Man, was I surprised. There was plenty of simulated digital violence at the PAX East gaming convention this weekend. But happily, that was as real as it got. A defiant Brianna Wu, the Arlington video game developer who has received dozens of death threats from a shadowy movement called Gamergate, safely kept her vow to appear at the convention. Also, they really are finding more derpy-looking photos of her. So, within the first paragraph, the Boston Globe is already painting a picture of Gamergate as a conspiracy against women in the industry. Immediately within the first fucking paragraph, they show their bias against the industry's consumers. Note that she kept her vow to appear at the convention, in spite of the death threats that were sent to her by some anonymous internet user, none of which have been verified. Last month, Wu announced that Giant Space Cat, the video game company she co-founded, would not set up a display booth at PAX East, one of the nation's largest gatherings of game fans. The reason? Fear for the safety of her employees. "I've had 48 death threats now in 6 months, Wu said in an interview Friday. To stand up to Gamergate, that's my choice. I can't make that choice for the women I work with. Oh, for shits and giggles, Brianna, I have here screen caps of you claiming death threats against you at PAX East 2015. Not only have there not been any credible death threats against you for this event, there were no police reports of anyone even attempting to carry out said death threats. Way to go, you hysterical liar." Wu made 2 public appearances at the convention, including a Friday Night Live edition of the gaming podcast Isometric. Even though the Gamergate controversy has made national headlines, Wu's appearance did not attract a large crowd. The podcast took place in a room designed to hold hundreds, but about 70 turned out. These included 2 plainclothes security workers, gruff and denim-clad, who cast suspicious eyes toward anybody who got near the stage. So, Brianna hosted a live podcast about God knows what, and only 70 people made it out. I have heard reports of the number being as low as 40. Doesn't that seem odd to you that a woman with such a huge Twitter following would only manage to seat 40 to 70 people in a room that can seat hundreds? Seems like the hype surrounding her is overblown. But Wu could not entirely avoid hostility. While she was on the exhibition floor at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center Saturday, she posed for a photo with someone who posted it on Twitter. That soon elicited a tweet that said in part, "You coulda went in for the kill." And yet we don't know the source of the tweet. Nor have you demonstrated that it is in any way linked to Gamergate, you fucking twat. She goes on to say that. In private Twitter messages to the Globe, Wu acknowledged seeing the threatening tweet, and added, "This is my life now. It's constant. It's exhausting. Nobody said when, where, and how they were going to kill you. Most likely it was an anonymous troll trying to get your goat, knowing that you would get hysterical about it." In her Friday interview, she discussed the months of death threats, saying, "The ones that just say, 'I'm going to kill you,' I just laugh them off. But when they say who, when, where, why, and how they want to kill me, I take that seriously." A Boston Police Department spokesman said Saturday evening that police were aware of the threatening tweet, but deemed it not credible. "We work very closely with this event," Lieutenant Michael McCarthy said. "We have officers on scene and will respond to any credible threats." See, Brianna? Do you see even that the police looked into the tweet and deemed it not credible? Oh my God, this is too good. You balk at the slightest form of threatening anything now. For Christ's sake, have some backbone, you pathological lying slattern. Anyways, the Boston Globe goes on to talk about how this all started, only they got that wrong too. Instead of discussing the origin of the hashtag Gamergate, they jump immediately to the threats surrounding Brianna, which started months after Gamergate kicked off. They completely ignore how this all started or the part that she had in the making of her own infamy. Wu's travails began last October, when she posted a Twitter message making light of Gamergate, a movement that describes itself as an effort to fight corruption in video game journalism. But some who associate themselves with the movement have also criticized efforts to increase the number of women working in the game industry, and to include more female characters in games. Again, Boston Globe, you got it wrong. Gamergate isn't a movement that woke up one day and decided that it hates women in gaming, games development, or journalism. But you're not going to dig that deep, because that takes time, money, energy, and a desire to go against the established mainstream narrative. They didn't mention that some who associate themselves with the movement have also criticized efforts to increase the number of women working in the game industry have in no way been tied to Gamergate at all. In fact, the only people who paint that narrative are the anti-Gamergaters, like Brianna Wu. After Wu criticized Gamergate, the threats began. While Wu agreed that video game journalism is in need of ethics reform, she had nothing but contempt for Gamergate. It's a pretext, she said. This is an actual hate group. They're upset and threatened by women who are being very outspoken about feminism. Backers of the Gamergate movement say the behavior of a few extremists is being used to smear their entire movement. No, Brianna. They don't want you pushing a feminist narrative into titles they already enjoy playing. There is nothing you could do to improve existing titles by doing that. The free market is telling you no, you should not then do that thing. Also note that the Boston Globe does not provide citations or any credible ramblings on Gamergate by Gamergaters, but makes the assumption that we feel that way. While there are third-party trolls that hijack the hashtag to spoil the movement, most Gamergaters don't believe that harassing women is a good thing. Get your facts straight, you lying piece of shit. The Boston Globe then goes on to interview actual PAX attendees, and the result was rather surprising for me, at least. You can't say that all people who support Gamergate hate women, just because one person in Gamergate might really hate women, said PAX East attendee Andrew Sampson, a 20-year-old software developer from Atlanta. Sampson insisted Gamergate isn't a war on women, but on corruption and dishonesty in video game journalism. Video game journalists for the longest time have been colluding together, said Sampson. Basically taking bribes, taking offers to publish positive reviews. According to Sampson, pressure from Gamergate has already caused some game publications to revise ethics policies. Slow clap, anyone? Wow, I am impressed, Boston Globe, you've actually managed to interview someone from the other side of the issue. This is actually the one bit of honest journalism in this piece, but I guess in dealing with Wu it is hard to know which way is up, or which statements are true or false. PAX East attendee Courtney Zam, 26, a sales engineer from Norwalk, Con, has mixed feelings about the controversy. As a woman, it's a little bit difficult to talk about it without getting angry, she said. While she's repulsed by the threats aimed at Wu and other female game developers, Zam agrees with Gamergate backers about ethical problems in game journalism. She complained that a solution is nowhere in sight. It's a lot of people yelling and not enough listening on both sides, Zam said. Fair enough, but just recognize that efforts to get the other side to deal with their actual fucking issues has been a nightmare. Not only that, but prominent internet personalities have actually left the internet because of this controversy, so it is definitely affecting the lives of those involved. Wu would welcome a truce. She said she's met with a prominent Gamergate supporter, seeking to understand their viewpoint, but she doesn't believe they'll ever find common ground. These people are not interested in that, she said. They cannot be reasoned with. They're extremists and they're sexists. See, this is the problem with modern feminism. You start bringing around all these people you disagree with and label them as sexist or misogynist if they are unswayed by your shitty arguments. Maybe you're the sexist, Brianna. For Wu, the solution is simple: start throwing some people in jail. I have spent so much time trying to get the FBI to arrest some of these people, she said. I'm working my butt off to get consequences added to the equation. Once people go to jail for doing these very illegal things, it may wake some people up. We already put people in jail for doing things like this. It's called harassment, Brianna, and if you can't tell the difference between harassment and criticism of your bad ideas, then get off the internet. It is said that the internet is a place where religions, and now feminism, go to die. Wu also expressed admiration for a different kind of gamer, former Boston Red Sox pitcher Curt Schilling. Last week, after a flood of harassing Twitter messages were aimed at Schilling's daughter, Gabby, Schilling struck back by tracking down the identities of the senders. One of them, a community college student, was suspended, and another, a part-time employee of the New York Yankees, was fired. In addition, Schilling has threatened to file lawsuits against all those who sent the messages. While that is tragic that someone completely unconnected with the controversy got caught in the crossfire, it has nothing to do with Gamergate. It sounds just like an anonymous troll decided to get in on the action, was stupid about it and got caught. An idiot to be sure, for sending those tweets, no doubt. Wu praised Schilling's response. He took law enforcement out of the equation, which hasn't been working, and he appealed directly to their employers and their universities, she said. But Wu didn't say whether she plans a similar counterattack. For now, she'd be content if the bullies would simply stop. This has been 6 months of pure hell for me, she said. Well, she probably won't stop because it is bringing her publicity on Twitter at least. I suspect though that her real-life following isn't as die-hard about it as she is, given that only 40 people showed up to hear her speak. When that happens, it sends a pretty strong indication that nobody wants much to do with her histrionic drama-seeking behavior, and that they'd rather interact with people who actually provide something good for others and are, you know, decent human beings.